Hello and welcome to the back porch of Franklin Bridge, where if you're watching here on the video, which if you're not, well, you'll see it on Instagram. You'll definitely see it on Instagram. Yep. We're going to try and put some up on the Franklin Bridge Performance app and do some more work potentially on YouTube as well. So if you're looking at us right now on the YouTube or on the video, whatever, make sure to hit that like button.
Yeah,
I was waiting. I was waiting for you.
Kind of a slow start, right?
Very
technical
slow start.
difficulties to get the day started here.
Yep.
We have with us a guest.
I wouldn't call him special.
No.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Guest speaker.
He's been on the podcast before.
Yep.
I'm going to play this up, because the people who are listening don't necessarily know who it is.
That's right.
So
he may not have listened. Yeah.
He might come back on when he was originally on last year during the winter, and we had a bunch of people come on the podcast or comment saying that they loved him on the podcast.
Yep.
So without further ado, Mr. Taylor Wilson, everybody.
Yes, Taylor.
What's up? How's it going? We're sharing a microphone, me and Scott, so it's going to be very
back.
Yes.
Back and forth.
Like a 80s band, hair band, where they come up and they sing into the same microphone for just part of the song.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to be.
I don't think we're going to get that close. But, big announcements. My second book is now available for pre-order. We're using GoFundMe as the platform, so we don't have to set up a bunch of different avenues and channels and paywalls and all that kind of mess. So it's on GoFundMe. You can just search my name or the 3 Secrets of Golf. Those will be on there. You can pre-order it now. Retail for it, I think we talked last time, it's going to be $9.99. Retail is going to be $14.99 based on cost of the production as we've kind of finalized it here.
It's good info, too. I mean, it's great info.
Yeah. Well, but what you're also going to get is you're going to get both the written. It's going to be a shorter book, between 50 and 70 pages, depending on how many images we put in there. And it's also going to have links to digital content to further explain the concepts or areas you might be confused. Or
shout out those QR codes.
Yep. Yeah. So we're excited about that. But I brought Taylor on here partly because he closed tonight, but also because he's been a big part of the data collection of BPN, OP, and POA. And for our club championship this weekend, a lot of that goes into setting pins that Taylor does. So Taylor's all in charge of setting the pins for a lot of our tournaments this year, and utilizing some of that information has been incredibly helpful. So Taylor, share a little bit about some of the data collection we've done. We're approaching 10,000 holes.
Isn't that crazy? I feel like a lot of people don't understand, 10,000 holes. 10,000 holes. That's if my math is right, a little bit over 5,000 rounds of golf. 10,000 divided by 20, 5,000. Oh,
I don't know how
I don't know
you're
where this is going. That's my fault.
Okay.
Just forget that I'm even talking right now. No, I'm just trying to say that's a crazy number.
Yeah.
I was trying to do 5,000 divided by 18.
Yeah, I first got into helping you with the data collection. I saw you over a spreadsheet, and I was like, what is going on? And then I saw math, so I immediately exited. Not a big fan of that. But Scott explained it, and I got into helping him with some of the data collection for all of the metrics that he is keeping track of. And outside of it boggling my mind, and still boggling my mind, I think it is some of the most useful information that I have ever heard.
I think when we came out with these data points and with these VPN proximity and POA, Scott was just like, yeah, so if you did X right and Y right, you would have shot 2 under. And I'm just thinking about yeah, Scott, yeah, makes sense, totally. And then it doesn't really
sense
it doesn't make any sense until you can really use it within your rounds. And I got to the point where I stopped using it in just my daily rounds, just because I wanted to focus on my fundamentals and getting really making sure I was playing the game before I started tracking data points. And then we most recently went in and talked about my round that I played today. And it makes so much more sense now that like when Scott can put it into context and when you're playing at such a high level to where you can understand where mistakes were made on the golf course and how that relates to the strokes that you're losing when you're playing.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to be a tour player. Obviously, this came off of tour data, and we'll highlight some of the exciting stuff that we looked at and like, nah, there's no way that's going to happen. There's no way that's going to happen. But like one of the things that you said and people say all the time is like, I just like, where am I losing those strokes? Like I'm 81, like where are they? And like you can obviously think about certain moments, but by actually pulling the data apart, and very simply, it's not like you're having to look at a giant spreadsheet. You got 3 data points to look at that are pretty easy to understand once you get them, and you can really pull that round apart. And we're looking at your OP and your POA not matching up, and obviously those that are listening don't even know what those things mean, which is fine. That's why you go ahead and pre-order the book to have it by Christmas.
Nice plug.
Otherwise, you're going to have to wait till Masters Week of next year to get it. If you don't pre-order it, you're going to have to wait till next year to get it. But anywho, like being able to pull the round apart is huge. So, but as we collected the data, to kind of give you some context, I had kind of been tracking like the way people play the game rather than just like stats and data. I've been looking at like, okay, if we were to place the ball over here versus over there, and we measure this and we measure that, more about placement of the ball than like greens hit, fairways hit, all that kind of stuff. I'm looking at it strictly from a strategic ball placement standpoint. And to look at it in those 3 data points was actually pretty fascinating. And so I started with it just tracking 72 holes and seeing what the outcome was, and started getting accurate and more accurate and more accurate. And then we're like, hey, I wonder if we could project. Take that data, take 36 holes. Would that be enough to project to a final round? And then this is when it got crazy. And yeah, I'll let Taylor go ahead and finish this. This is awesome.
It got to the point where we were inputting data after rounds of golf on the PGA Tour and predicting the outcome and final score of tournaments. And then some of us were betting on those tournaments and making money on it. It got so accurate that we were able to, with a degree of certainty, determine who's going to finish in what position and what score would win the tournament.
And this is why I'm so excited for the book, too, because now the common man, the weekend golfer, if you want to figure out how you can take those strokes off your score, with the book, you're now going to be able to understand how we get to those scores at the end of the day and where you're missing. Like today, I thought I played a fantastic round. I shot a 39 on the front, and then I bombed a 42 on the back. But like we went through the round afterwards and really understood like, okay, this is where you missed here, this is where you missed here, this is where you missed here. And I didn't feel like I played all that bad, but it turns out like I could have easily shot a 76, 75.
Yeah, with actual clarity, like without hitting the ball any better, without doing anything but manipulating the shots that you chose, we could have lowered it substantially. But to also give it context, this is where it's cool too. Like if a tour player had hit the ball in this relative same locations as you did, said they would have shot 2.5 under par, which gives you like a massive appreciation for their skill set.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that was kind of neat to be able to see that. But here's the even crazier part. As we were tracking this data, I got questions from various people as I started kind of sharing some insights and wanting to be challenged a little bit on it. They're like, well, what about the ball in the bunker off the tee? What about it in the bunker near the green? What about it being in the trees? What about it being out of bounds? What about it being in the water? And the thing that we found is none of that matters. Like, that's the weird part. Like, none of that matters. And
it doesn't matter your skill set, too.
No.
That's the crazy thing is a lot of people are like, well, I can't be using this, this formula because I'm not good enough to do it yet. It's like, well, no, like this is easily going to get you to a more accurate place of where your skill set actually lies.
Yeah,
which is so
because
cool.
without these without these data points, you're thinking to yourself, okay, I have to hit it close to the hole. And we're saying you just have to hit it anywhere over there. Anywhere in that area.
Yeah.
You can put the ball anywhere over there.
You have 60 yards.
Yeah,
Just put it there.
there's a lot of room out there. It actually does open up over there.
Yeah. So Scott, while we've gone 10 minutes kind of selling these data points, where can the amateur sink their teeth in and really apply this to their game in a way that they can start understanding where they need to be improving ASAP?
Well, I think the first one is stop trying to hit like the right shot. Like, learn how to move the ball, shape it left to right, take a shot that lays you in a position that you can then play in from there. So like, people go, well, I got to hit the green. And that happened to you today, right? Like on hole 4, you took a shot that, yeah, a tour player could pull off some of the time, but you're not at that skill level yet, which I'm okay that you tried it because you got to learn something. Like, that's how you learn. But it ended up turning into a double where at the very worst, you could have played it to a wedge that you've been doing well with. You would have improved your POA substantially. And then at the very worst, you would have made 5.
It's interesting, too, because when I go back to that, I did not hit a great tee shot, and I didn't hit it far enough to where I wasn't able to see the clearing for number 4. And so I saw that shot up and over the trees, and I was like, okay, I've been playing well. I was sitting even at that point, and I was like, okay, like I just gotta like hit what I've been hitting.
Right.
And I soon figured out that, okay, there's probably a 20% chance 2 out of 10 times I hit this thing on the green. But when we're talking about these 3 data points about playing the odds, playing the statistics, and understanding that I have to play to my skill set and punching over and getting on and making no more than bogey would have been, and it would have done well for my score, and it would have built my confidence going into the next hole.
Which is what I was hoping you were going to bring up. Yep.
Going into the next hole where I blocked one to the right and then made another bogey on top of that could have easily been
no
par.
Worse than par. Right.
Yeah.
So that one shot didn't cost you 2. It cost you 3.
3.
That's where it's really neat. And we haven't even talked about the other place you lost. So that gets you to 78 right there.
Yeah.
At the worst, 79.
Yeah.
And so that's that compounding. People talk about compounding errors. Well, what does it even mean? This actually allows us to do that and go back. And the cool part for me is real time. If you track it as you're playing, you can start catching your patterns of behavior without going like, well, I'm hitting it. Like, you felt like you're hitting it pretty good today. But what we're actually showing in the data is like, hey, there was a trend that was already happening. We could have righted the ship much earlier and made that front 9 a 37 instead of a 39.
Yeah.
And that back 9 turns into a 38 instead of a 41, and there's your 75. And without you hitting it a lick better, simply picking different shots in different places. So,
and that's why I think I want people to understand this as well. It's like, well, just because you get, a double, let's say you get a double on one hole, that momentum doesn't stop on that hole. It carries into the next 3, 4, 5, frankly, however many holes you have left. And so being able to strategically pick those shots and not get too low, not get too high all the time will really give you that consistency that you guys are longing for in your game.
And I do briefly want to touch on the application to golf course setup for tournaments, because I was working on the pins for Club Championship today, and it allows, knowing these things and knowing that these spots are so important, you can start putting pins and tees in places that make them harder to get to. The golf course has more defense than we knew previously. And you can now, as much as you can exploit it to shoot a lower score, I can use my brain to exploit it to make the golf course play harder than it appears to be playing. There's some pins out there that look really easy.
Talk about the different days.
Yeah.
Like we have it like 5 set one way one day.
Yeah, so
Explain what Scott just said for the people
yeah.
listening.
So Scott just said to explain how we're switching it up on the day to day as well. So the first round is going to give you a completely different look than the second round, especially when you know these data points and you're trying to hit these spots. To look at the same golf hole and have to take wildly different approaches to play the hole, it makes the game more interesting, and it makes the course more varied across 2 rounds of golf. I think it's going to be very exciting to watch.
And two, kind of taking your point, Taylor, speaking about setting up a golf course, I think people will see just this monster pin, right? They'll see this tucked pin that's impossible to get to, and they think that, oh, man, those pin placements were the reasons that I'm not making birdies. And it's like, no, you're not. The reason you're not making the birdies is because you're not hitting the OPs, and then you're not hitting it to the right side of the pin. It doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter.
But what's even more fun is on the other side when you're standing on the tee box and you go, God, this pin is money. It's right. It is a green light pin. And then you par or bogey, and you're like, oh, man, that really stinks.
Missed an opportunity there. Yeah.
But you didn't, because I set you up in a way that made it so difficult to – I just think it's going to – for a golf course setup, I love it.
So I want people to understand when tournaments are set up, like, you look at the wins and you look at different things that change from day to day. Great tournament setups actually play off of those things. I'll use examples from the tour. They'll have holes, like, let's say it's a 400-yard par 4. It's not drivable, unless you're Bryson. It's not drivable, but it may be downwind one day, and they bump it up a set or two of tees, so it plays 370, and then it is drivable because it's downwind that day. Well, the following day or on that weekend, so it's 370 playing 340 if it's downwind 10, roughly, 8 to 10. And then later in the week, Saturday, Sunday, they may bump the tee all the way back to 400 with a wind into their face, and now it's playing 440. So you got the same golf hole that's playing, could be as much as 60 yards difference from the weekday to the weekend, depending on how the weather patterns play out. And tournament organizers do this all the time, and it's beautifully done on the PGA Tour. But I kind of want to share. I like sharing like what the data did. So one of our most exciting tournaments was early on. Koepka has the lead after the first round. This was one of the WGC tournaments. It's when Hovland made the 8 on his 36th hole. Okay, so that's the WGC Mexico. So we're looking at this data going, after 36 holes, Koepka's got the lead. Vegas is saying that Koepka's going to win the tournament. Morikawa's a shot or two back, but hadn't really won anything big recently. Like, Koepka's got it. Koepka doesn't give away a win into the weekend. And my data really didn't have Koepka moving much further. It's like he might get a stroke or two lower, but that's about all he's going to sit. Now, my data had Morikawa going all the way to almost 18 under par, like 17.8. And we're like, what? Morikawa's going to win this golf tournament? And then we're looking at Hovland. Hovland's only 4 under, and it says he's going to get to 15. We're like, yeah, sure, that's really going to happen. And then I'll let Taylor share what we got to see happen.
Yeah, so I'll save the theatrics. It all happened. But we looked back at the data, and we were trying to figure out how we couldn't see it, and the model could. And we started to notice, like, oh, now wait a minute. This was bound to happen. Like, Hovland, he made an 8 on one of the holes. It even predicted that he was going to make that 8. I mean, but it shows that the score and all the metrics that everybody was looking at, it's not telling you what this is telling you. It's it's wild.
It's as much
Morikawa wins.
It's as much of a time machine as we can get in the game, just because
absolutely
we can take what you've done over the first 2 days, and I'd be interested to track this within like back in Tiger's heyday. No, I can't go back and get we can't go back and get that data, but I would love to see guys like Tiger who can just turn it on in the last 72 or last 36 and just figure out how to beat this model, because nobody to this point has been able to.
Absolutely.
So they can do it for a round or 2 or 3. And if we look at the tournament, the Charles Schwab, I think it was the Charles Schwab where Spieth was 15 under and then he fell back several. He shot 3 over in the final round. My data after 36 holes said he should have made 5.5 bogeys, essentially, or should have had 5.5 strokes over par in certain holes. But he had only made 2. So he was bound to make a couple in the final round. Well, if you add in the rest of the final round data, that takes us to 6.7. He made 7 bogeys, made 5 in the final round. My data after 2 rounds, he was 11 under par, said, hey, he's not going to shoot any more than 12 under. He's going to be between 11.4 something and 12.3 something. And he shot 12 under. like Spieth didn't even know he's going to shoot 3 over.
And back to that Victor Hovland 8. I think your model had said that he was gonna make like 3 or 4 bogeys, and then he hadn't made a bogey all day, and then makes an 8. And like, well, there they all are. They just happened very, very quickly. But yeah, my mind is still blown.
So and as I was researching it, people were like, you need to patent your model. Well, there's nothing like a patent, like putting it on audio like this and putting it in print. And I can't patent a formula. So I was like, you know what? If I'm not going to patent a formula, I don't care. I'm trying to make as many people better as I can. Let's share this with the world. Like, let's get this out there. We're going to put some marketing dollars behind it. This is a different way of playing the game. And honestly, it's the only way it should ever be played. So, it's something we're looking forward to, and I've got to stall some more while Jack's still out. But we had some fun doing this for the Masters. Yes. So the Masters was really difficult. So share a quick moment on the Masters.
Yeah, the Masters is one of those golf courses where all these data points, all these spots where you're supposed to be placing the ball, everything gets a little tighter. Everything gets a little bit smaller, a little bit harder to reach. And in a way, that's sort of how we've figured out why that Masters winning score is always so much higher than the other tournaments of the year, is just because it gets harder and harder to hit. But that was a fun tournament to do because it was, first of all of the data collection, everything was so clear at Augusta. Like, that is very obviously a BPN or an OP or a POA. It made everything so cut and dry that you could see, like, hey, this is really where you got to be.
It's cool to see too on such unique golf courses as well,
yeah.
Because like a lot of people are like, well, how can you predict Augusta? Like Augusta is Augusta. Like, you can't do that. Like, or like you get like a not a Southwind, Riviera too. Like, that's a super fun one to look at it on. But like a lot of these unique golf courses, you think these players are going to shoot like, they'll either shoot really low or really high, whatever. And then like, it's going to be cool this May, or April, right? Masters, April, when we can see like, okay, these guys are predicted to go like 2 or 3 under par. Like, it's going to be awesome, especially when when the players are playing closer and closer to the course average.
Yeah, and that's where so there are some golf courses that are a lot, you see them go shoot 20-something under par. Well, here's the cool part. Those 3 data points are still the only 3 you need, but the formula changes. So that's where it gets exciting. And so we look at the final round at Craig Ranch where they played, and everybody was absolutely floored that Patton Kizzire shot 9 under in the final round. After 2 rounds, I had him getting to 21 under par, and he was at 11, which is reasonable. These guys are shooting. It was like, okay, yeah, that's probably possible. Guys are doing it. And then in the 3rd round, he only shoots 1 under. It's like, well, he's not going to get to the 21 under par. There's no way he's going to get to the 21. He shoots 9 under in the final round. It's like, what? What is happening? And so we are, essentially what this is we are creatures of habit. There's obviously more to the game than that. Yes, you have out of bounds, you have water hazards, you have rough, you have lots of things at play. You have tournament pressure, all of that. However, these 3 data points by themselves are the first 3 that are actually predictive in nature, allow you to make adjustments in real time on the fly without any bias. Like, you can see what's really happening. You can kind of get a really clear picture under the hood. It really fixes the mindset a little bit, which we haven't talked about. Yeah. That's what I'm going to say. Like, it changes your entire mindset when you play. Gives you high energy, gives you lots of control. You're not nervous that things are going to fall apart. Like, all that work that sports psychologists and performance coaches have worked so hard to try and get people to do, it does it. It just takes care of all of it for you. And then this one's a cool one for me. If you're a college coach and you aren't buying this book for your teammates and for your players and taking them all through this, you are losing massive chances to get ahead. Because imagine if you can stand on the 6th tee box or the 5th one, whatever, somewhere early third of the round, all your players, you don't have to watch them. Don't worry about watching them. What are you watching them for? You don't need to know. That's not going to tell you anything. You just stand on the 5th tee box and watch them all come through and watch their data in real time. Go, we need to adjust here, here, and here. And you can adjust your team on the fly and catch mistakes before they ever happen. And to me, that's worth its weight in gold. For anybody that's trying to make it, get an edge on their competition, whatever. So BPN, OP, POA, if you want to get a copy by December, I'm giving you a chance to get ahead. I'm literally giving you a chance to get ahead because I will not release it till Masters Week. I don't care if it's November the 16th and you say, oh, man, I know it was yesterday and I missed. I'm not giving it to you. Like, you are going to have to wait till April to get it.
You know what's the cool thing, too, about GoFundMe is that depending on the level of contribution, there can also be like some freebies involved. And those are up on the page as this podcast goes out. And so if you order, X package or Y package, you get certain stuff for free as well, which is, I mean, like, if you want to get better, there's no reason why you shouldn't be having this book in your hands.
Absolutely. What did you say the cost was? $14.99? Yeah. If you're skeptical about spending $14.99 on this book, buy the book and then make that money back betting on the next golf tournament. Literally,
true. or betting on yourself with your buddies on the weekend.
Absolutely,
like,
yes.
There you go. Well, we're going to wrap it up here on the back porch of Franklin Bridge. As always, you can subscribe to Scott at S. Golf. That is going to be the place where you find updates about the book, updates about the course, updates about Scott, updates about the podcast. You guys need to be following Scott if you haven't already at S. Golf on Instagram.
We've got our first sponsor starting up soon. We're not going to say more.
We're gonna keep that. Coming. But we do have a sponsor on the podcast now, which is something that we've been wanting for a really long time now, and we've been getting it. Our views have been up thanks to everybody who's listening. We're almost at 20,000 plays, which is super exciting. We had our best month last month in September of all time. I mean, you look at the growth of the podcast. I mean, it literally looks like it's going to the sky right now, which is awesome.
We're excited. So thanks for listening.
Thank you all for
Taylor,
listening.
Thanks for joining again. Thanks for the help putting all this data in. I wouldn't be able to do it without both these guys sitting here and having the data that we have. And we've got something special. And there's nothing like when you have something special to just share it with the world. So we're excited to share it. We're going to make a little money on it because we've spent a lot of late nights, up past midnight, 1 o'clock, collecting data for months on end. So been a lot of fun. Can't wait to bring it to you guys. Here we go.
Love it, love it. Well, we're going to wrap it up here from the back porch of Franklin Bridge. Again, make sure to follow Scott on Instagram at S. Golf, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.